This is Unrendered on IKTV. You can follow us, the team at IKTV, on Twitter at iConcepts. My guest on this edition of the program, Colin Williams, Director of Public Prosecutions, and Linton Lewis, Dr. Linton Lewis, Senator, NDP Senator, and President of the Bar Association. Gentlemen, we're into the final segment of the program. I wanted to spend 2 more minutes on the Bennett Frederick matter. You were about to respond to the DPP when we went out on the break.
I believe it's in the
because he was saying, I would remind you, that the Bar Association was incorrect in stating that the arrest of Bennett Frederick was illegal.
That is the opinion
Yes.
of the bar. That matter may be determined in court, and it has to be decided upon
Okay.
by a judge. And,
Yes.
and we ought not to be judges at this time and be very definitive. It is the DPP's view that it is not.
So the Bar Association should not have been definitive. If you had your way, the Bar Association would not have been definitive.
Was made by the Bar Association.
Yeah.
The DPP said it is not unlawful. There's a statement made by the bar is
But you, the bar, is saying it's lawful. It's unlawful.
The jury is out on this. That is a matter that will be debated.
But if the jury is out, you shouldn't state it in your press release.
That is an opinion by the bar.
If the bar is out. You see, the thing is, I am sure if the bar had the benefit of the input of like past presidents like Kebakas, in drafting that particular release and looking at the things, or Nicole, Sylvester, you would not have made such a statement.
You do not know.
Yeah.
You do not know how the document was actually prepared and who involved in it, and it is not it's not proper to the process of elimination to mention the.
No, I'm just stating that
I'm saying to you, you do not know, and you must not make that statement.
Yeah.
Now the issue is this. Is that we have differences of opinion. And therefore, the DPP has an opinion, Mr. Williams. The statement released by the bar executive has a different opinion.
And the viewers will have an opinion.
That's it.
Let's move on. Dwayne Sandy, I think his name is, was picked up on this post office robbery. He was picked up after, well, he wasn't picked up actually, he turned himself in. There were images sent across of this wanted, dangerous, fugitive. And then it turns out that he's now walking free. What is fundamentally wrong with that?
Yeah. Well, it is linked, I think, to the growth of social media in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, because I'm not so sure that the police are the ones who were the driving force.
Didn't the police put out that wanted poster?
I'm as yet to ascertain exactly how it came to the origins of it. I'm still at a loss as to the origins. Because in my understanding of it, there may have been certain information that suggested in the early stages that Dwayne Sandy was the person that was wanted, right? That the person who may have committed it was Dwayne Sandy. He was, of course, we know what happened. He came in, I think, but by time he came in on the Monday, I think by the Monday evening, my own advice was release the man, because there was by then sufficient information that Dwayne Sandy was not the person that you were looking for, or that there was insufficient information upon which a charge against him could have been laid. So in other words, release him.
So your advice was to release him?
Yes.
So he was released but picked back up again?
Well, he was released maybe a day or two after, yes. Because that was by the Monday evening, I think I was pretty clear in my mind, based on what I was told, that he wasn't the person. Then I'm at a loss, to be honest, as to why he was picked up on the second occasion, because there is a document that we have produced, and that the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions has produced upon that is dealing with the identification through social media, right? This is like where you see suspects in the social media. If this guide was followed, Dwayne Sandy would never have been picked up on the second occasion.
Are you saying that the police erred?
Somebody heard. I don't know who heard. I don't know. To say the police would be painting a broad picture in relation to the entire police force.
It's only the police. Well,
no. When we say the police,
it's only the police that make the arrest.
The statement that he was picked up. Security for his
protection.
For his protection.
Yeah, something. Like
sounds very strange to me. I mean, I don't claim to know everything in the law.
So it sounds concocted.
But not that it sounds concocted, but just that I'm unaware of why you would take somebody into protective custody if they have not requested it. In other words, to me, protective custody is something that you request.
Yes.
Right?
I feel threatened, so I want the protection of the law.
Yes.
I prefer to be in a station arrest or whatever.
Right.
Douglas, you're the president of the bar, and you were criticized by the DPP, who's sitting right next to you, for not weighing in on these things. You only weighed in on the Vinod Frederick thing, and that's why he feels that it reeks of politics. Now let me hear you weigh in on the Sandy thing.
That is the opinion of the DPP.
Yes, fair
I think the DPP should stay away from making statements political. But on the issue of Dwayne Sandy, one, the police were involved in inquiries and investigations. I'm aware of that. There was a feeling that somehow there was some connection between him and the crime. The crime involved a police officer, and therefore there will be some
special
form of
interest.
haste
One of our own
to get the matter resolved expeditiously. I find it rather strange, though, that the DPP will not want to say that it was the police who were involved in arresting and actually detaining Dwayne Sandy.
No, when I say the police, I'm saying the broad picture. I don't know who specifically.
But someone must
someone within the police force.
Within the police force. A member of the police force.
Yeah.
No, that's the point I'm getting to. Because the fact is that the impression that I got was not a police. So I was wondering if
no.
Oh, it wasn't
no, I am saying that I don't want to say the police as if we targeting the force in its entirety. But
an error was made.
You didn't qualify. Yeah. So I thought that perhaps it was someone in the DPP.
Yeah. Sorry to deflate you of that opportunity.
No. I thought you meant there's someone from the DPP department who may have issued instructions.
Yes. No.
So we have it clarified. It was a member of the police force. Now, to apprehend someone like that who is understandably innocent, and the DPP said that he was of the belief that Dwayne Sandy was innocent after looking at the
evidence before him, yes.
And when one
not innocent, that we didn't have enough to link him to the offense at
after looking at the evidence that you had at the time.
As early as Monday.
And then the issue also is that you sometimes take people in and then you make inquiries and they carry to investigation. You have about 48 hours to do so, and before you actually think about charging or releasing that person. So I'm wondering now if there is little cooperation between the DPP's office and the police force that would have allowed this matter to have got out of hand.
No, there was cooperation, but what I'm saying is that I believe, my understanding is that he was picked up based on something that surfaced during the use of social media. But what I'm saying, there's a social media identification policy, and had the standards outlined by the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution be followed, that would not have happened.
No, but I still find it strange with respect, because I get the impression that the DPP is saying that he may have indicated to the police that there's insufficient evidence to hold the gentleman.
But then maybe saying that's what he said.
But then the person was picked up again. And
so there's a disconnect, because you're saying that the DPP office should not have known anything about it.
Because if there's this cooperation and connection and continued communication, then that wouldn't happen again without the DPP's knowledge of it. I would presume that if further evidence came to light, which actually link Dwayne Sandy to the offense, that they would have contacted the DPP and informed him that notwithstanding he may have asked for the man to be released by virtue of the fact that there was insufficient evidence, we have since come into information which actually gives us the impression that he ought to be picked up again.
Colin.
If that is not done, then there has to be a disconnect.
Colin, let's spend one more minute on this because I want to look at the chief of police, the outgoing chief of police, and just ask you, goodly gentlemen, what you think his legacy is. But let's talk about this disconnect that Dr. Lewis is talking about. The rearrest or the taken into protective custody of Dwayne Sandy following his release. Is that an indication, as Dr. Lewis is suggesting, that there's some disconnect? Because you clearly are at odds with it. You don't see why he should have been
you see, the thing is that
so where did the police get their instructions from? Are instructions required?
Instructions were not required from the office of the DPP specifically to say, well, okay, we receive additional information, let us act on it or whatever. But courtesy, maybe it's an issue of courtesy. They should, I mean, I agree with him that possibly the proper thing to do if they come into possession of certain additional information is to say, well, okay, I know this was your position earlier. This is the additional information we have. What do you think?
But
that is a reasonable question. But if it is not done, it doesn't make it wrong.
Mind you, he was picked up to be taken into protective custody.
I don't know what is protective custody
and this,
in
again,
these circumstances.
You'll be amused by that
Yes,
because
I don't know what it is.
What is it? And why is the police deciding that this person needs to be protected?
You know, I sometimes, this actually widens the disconnects because the DPP is saying he does not know what is protective custody.
Do you know?
Case,
do you know?
No,
I'm asking
no,
do you know?
No, in this case.
Do you know?
No, hold on. In this case, he said he does not know. One would have anticipated that there would have been some form of communication for a matter as important as that, with national involvement, that there would have been some communication between the DPP's office and the police force, and then this issue of what is or what is not protective custody, or the circumstances under which the term protective custody was used. There would have been a greater understanding and appreciation of it if there was this sort of communication.
Sadly, let's push on because we're going to run out of time. Yes. And I want to ask your opinion on, you know, in 1.5 minutes, Dr. Lewis, and likewise, Colin, what's the legacy of Commissioner Miller? He's the outgoing commissioner.
Let the DPP go first.
You want him to bat first.
You do hope no one. But in any event, what I'm saying, I don't think that you would have a unanimous opinion as to what his actual legacy is. The fact of the matter is that he has had a long tenure. He went into that office and he served out to his full term.
Was policing improved? Was the whole aspect of policing under his tenure?
Well, there were
public prosecution.
There was one particular innovation that I think that would might be linked to his legacy, which would be the bringing on stream of the rapid response unit. I think that might be attributed to him.
You often spoke about community policing.
The community policing, the issue of the police youth clubs, the Pan Against Crime initiative came during his tenure. The purchasing of the mobile units. Those would be the high points, I think. On the other hand, there would be those who would say, well, look, man, this should have been 3-4 years ago, and would have loved them.
I think quite a number of police officers seem to have acquired academic qualifications during the time that he was in the force. And I think he encouraged that greatly. He came into the force at a time when it was highly politicized. And
is it ever not?
But it was at the time highly politicized. And it was very difficult at the time for him to be able to resolve that issue. So there still remains a serious apparently division, political division in the force.
But not of his making, are you saying that?
Well, I don't think it's of his making. It is not of his making. But he was asked to preside over it and to resolve it. I would think that you had these improvements, even with respect to the police involvement in social activities. You had all the areas, the sort of violent areas at one time in the Paulsot area where the mobile units was stationed for some time and it assisted greatly in resolving crime.
Yes.
Then in the Otney Hall area in resolving crime.
I'm afraid we must
Yes.
we must
So,
see
so
that.
he really did something, or a number of good things
What
about
about
his
the
watch.
issue of taking back into the police force the police officers that were involved, and I can't remember exactly what the whole thing was.
In relation to Jamak Jackson,
Yes.
I think that
Is that a
one
low
of
point?
one of the lows of his tenure. Some persons might complain that he might not have that he had an opportunity. He came at a time when he had an excellent cadre of senior staff, and he could have really be one of the most outstanding commissioners that this country has ever had. But
I guess
it
we
was a
all
blown
have our low
opportunity.
points
Yes.
and our high points.
Yes.
Thank you very much for coming on the program. Thank you once again,
Thank you.
Dr. Lewis. Always lovely to have you.
All right.
Goodly gentlemen at IKTV. This has been another edition of Unrendered. My guests were the Director of Public Prosecutions, a frequent guest on the program, Colin Williams, and another frequent guest on the program, NDP Senator Dr. Linton Lewis. He's also president of the Bar Association. Jomo Thomas is up next, and immediately following Jomo Thomas's Plain Talk, I invite you to view IKTV's first airing of one of the TED lectures given by Eric Lee, and his topic is A Tale of Two Political Systems. Very interesting. Stick around and watch it.